Technology has made life easier for all of us. But when it comes to those smartphones and iPads, parents need to be vigilant. The downside to keeping in touch is that it's now a whole lot easier for cyberbullies to reach your children. Fox 26's Katie McCall warns in this Only on Fox report that parents who are in the dark about the latest apps and websites could be making a fatal mistake.
There was a time when if someone was picking on you, you could just go home. But in our 24/7 society, even when your physical door is closed, the virtual doors in cyberspace are always open.
It's just torture, really. It's just torture.
Welcome to the world of cyberbullying, where the bully down the street can be picking on your child right at your dinner table every time that cell phone buzzes.
Almost every teenager I talk to will say that they have been harassed online at one point or another.
More than half of all young people report being cyberbullied. On apps like Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, the bully has a profile. But the new face of bullying has no face. It happens on virtual bulletin board applications like Whisper and Secret. As their names imply, participants are anonymous. And in the hands of a bully, anonymity is a dangerous weapon. This post on Secret says, "You are painfully dumb."
And more anonymous people are, unfortunately, the worse the behaviors.
You may not know what Ask FM is, but your teenager probably does. It has 120 million users worldwide. Half are high school age. It's another place where people post questions and answers under the protection of anonymity. There we found comments like, "You are fat," and "Do you try to look ugly, or do you always look like that?"
There's no accountability in anonymity, right? So people feel that they're not accountable for their actions.
In the last 2 years, investigators reported 16 suicides involving American teenagers who had been bullied on Ask FM. To those on the front lines in the battle against bullying, that's no surprise.
It just absolutely destroys self-esteem. When you destroy self-esteem, depression sets in. I see kids contemplating suicide as a result of it.
It can definitely lead to suicidal thoughts. It can lead to non-suicidal self-injury, which is cutting behaviors.
Yik Yak is a fun name for an app, but if it's on your kid's phone, ask him or her about it. Yik Yak also hosts anonymous posts ranging from harmless gossip to humiliating rumors, insults, and even hate speech.
So the cyber attacks that occur at a much higher frequency can be much more mean-spirited and can include kind of a gang mentality, right? Because if I say something mean to you and I have my network behind me, you know that all my network saw it.
37% of American kids ages 12 to 17 now have a smartphone. If someone's bullying your child, you can use that phone to fight back, and your service provider may even be able to help you.
There's software that cellular companies have that you can use to download text. A lot of times there are threats that are made by texting.
You can also contact the police. In some cases, charges can be filed against a cyberbully. Under state law, your school is required to investigate reported cases of cyberbullying, and what is critical is that you know what is on your child's devices. If you think they'll tell you, think again. An astounding 95% of teens who witnessed bullying on social media say they have ignored the behavior instead of reporting it. At this delicate developmental stage, there is just too much at stake to do nothing.
Those are times in our lives when we're developing our sense of self, our sense of who we are, and those mean, degrading comments that get made kind of live with us after we put the phones down.
Here to talk more about cyberbullying and the problems and the threat it poses to your children is Andre Banks, a student behavior specialist. We were just having an in-depth conversation ourselves about this. It can be devastating.
Yes, it can.
And what you do is you actually go into schools and you are helping local teachers, local administrators learn how to teach their students that they can't do this. Even though it happens a lot out of school, you've got a great audience there. You can teach these kids in schools.
Yes, we can. One of the things we like to say is, no matter what goes on, schools is still the safest place for kids to be, right? There are a lot of resources there, a lot of people that can help them, a lot of eyes. And what we try to do is go into schools and help them build what we call a tiered level of school-wide interventions to meet the kids' needs no matter where they are. We have a lot of kids that we call invisible kids, and those are kids who are suffering kind of in silence. They're internalizing all these behaviors they're receiving from these kids who are actually doing the bullying, and those kids tend to internalize those behaviors and then end up doing things we don't want them to do, you know, in the end. So what we try to do at Pearson is try to create a school-wide system of support where kids can get their needs met, know where to go. We have interventions and strategies we teach schools and classroom teachers about how to deal with those level of behaviors and interventions. And so that's what we try to do, create a nurturing environment for students.
And let's talk about what parents can do. Can you go to your school and say, you know what, why don't you implement a program like this? Why can't you teach our children, other people's children, how to act and how not to act is the biggest thing, how not to bully?
Well, of course, there's, you know, state requirements for bullying for schools. They have to actually teach a bullying process.
All schools have to
have that, right? And so, in doing so, the parent need to go in and find out what are the schools actually doing about bullying, you know, and talk to your kids about it. It's real, you know, hard to talk to kids about stuff, right? But one of the things you need to do is make sure you're aware of what the kids are doing on the web, checking their phones, things like that, and talking about bullying. Asking the question, have you been bullied in school before? And if so, you know, ask the question, what do you think about it? And kids who are bullied, what do you do about it? So having those conversations with the kid helps the kid understand bullying and know where to go to get support.
And it's so hard for kids to say, you know what, I'm not giving you your password. And that's when you say, well, if I don't have your password, you don't have the phone, right? I mean, you need to be able to get in there and see what is happening.
You have to have a structured approach to that, right? You got to make sure that when you give kids a cell phone or a laptop and access to all these websites and things like that, that you set guidelines for using those, right? If those guidelines are not being followed, then yeah, you need to kind of, you know, take that away.
It's such an important conversation, I think, that everybody have with their kids. Don't you think, on the talk to me if this is happening to you, and then also the other side of don't do it yourself, don't bully anybody?
Yeah, and the thing about bullying, there are three people involved in that process, right? They can help stop that cycle. You have the kid that's being bullied. You have the kid who's actually carrying out the bullying. Then you have the observer. Each person has a role in stopping the bullying cycle, right? And what we try to do is provide interventions for the schools at each one of those levels, because each kid, including the kid who's actually doing the bullying, needs intervention support to help stop that process. If we can stop that kid, then we can stop the process from continuing.
Andre Banks, brilliant information to share with our viewers. Thank you for taking time to talk to us today. Keep up the great work you're doing for our community. You are making a difference.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
You have to be here.